What do you believe to be the difference between liberal thinking and conservative thinking regarding the issues you choose? And what is better for America, liberal ideas and solutions or conservative ideas and solutions regarding the issues you choose? And here are the issues, and I'll list them. Number one, racial issues, racial policies. Number two, multicultural versus melting pot approach to America. Number three, English as a national language. Number four, economic inequalities and poverty in America. Number five, education issues. Number six, government programs versus private programs. Number seven, healthcare. And number eight, illegal immigration. So, okay, Mr. Prager, you are first.
Racial issues, racial policies. I believe the conservative, and I thought the liberal, but used to be the liberal approach, was that race doesn't mean a thing, that the color of your skin is as irrelevant as the size of your shoe. That is what I was raised as a liberal to believe. Incidentally, I still think I'm a liberal. I think liberals have become leftists. The left took over liberalism after the Vietnam War, and race is one of the examples. Race blind was the liberal ideal. Since the 60s, race respect is the liberal ideal. Race consciousness is the liberal ideal. It's a very different view of racial issues. I also think that the United States is the least racist country in the world, that it is the most open society. That is why more Africans have moved here since slavery voluntarily than were ever sent here as slaves, because black Africans know that the best place to live in the world, if they're not living at home, is the United States of America. They're not foolish. Liberals would have to explain why so many black Africans would want to move to a country they so readily declare racist. Multiculturalism undoes the motto of America, e pluribus unum, from many one, and it inverts it upside down, and it says from one many. And that is the ideal now, where one celebrates every culture except essentially American culture. Public schools used to be there in order to form children into American citizens. They are now there to honor wherever your parents came from. This is an entirely different idea. I am the grandchild of immigrants. My parents were raised in public schools. They were taught to be Americans, not the children of Poles and Russians. English is a national language. Why on God's earth anybody would want to disunite the American people by having multiple languages on ballots, multiple languages everywhere? We are blessed with a unifying language. Why would we want to replicate what Canada has been cursed with? It's not a blessing to Canada that it has French and English as a bilingual society. And I speak 4 languages. I love languages, but that's my business, not the government's business. It is good to have a national language. If you can't read a ballot, don't vote. It's as simple as that. I don't want ballots in Vietnamese and Spanish and Tagalog and Chinese and so on. How on God's earth are you supposed to be educated enough to know what's happening in America if you can't read English? My grandparents did not read English for a time. They didn't vote. Simple as that. They raised very bright kids who could vote, and none of whom had accented English. Economic inequality, one of the major liberal conservative differences, what you fight. Conservatives fight evil, liberals fight inequality. That's the evil for liberals. I am not troubled by inequality. I am troubled by abject poverty. I am troubled by disease. I am troubled by injustice. I am not troubled by inequality. Only the jealous are troubled by inequality. I do not care that Bill Gates has 10,000 times more income than I do. If he produces a computer that allowed me to write books that I never would have written before the word processor, I bless the man and wish him a 7th airplane. These are differences that we have. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to go through the same issues. Progressives believe that race in America does exist. We don't pretend it does. I think it's presumptuous, especially of people in the majority race, to pretend that race doesn't exist. It's easy to say that race doesn't exist if you are a product of race privilege. And in this country, we know that there is race privilege. Progressives don't think that we should have a society that necessarily preferences one race over another. But to not acknowledge the existence of race is silly. And I'm just going to give you some facts here, because we need to have some facts in these debates. White households right now have incomes that are 2/3 higher than those of African Americans and 40% higher than those of Hispanics, according to the Census Bureau. White adults were also more likely than black and Hispanic adults to have college degrees and to own their own homes. They were less likely to live in poverty. According to the American Journal of Public Health, 900,000 African Americans died in the last 10 years because they did not have the same access to health care as non-African Americans. So we acknowledge that race exists in this country, that it actually exists as a social force, whether we like it or not. Economic inequality. Progressives believe that right now, especially right now in this country, the wealthiest country on earth, the problem is that there is too much inequality, that the mantra of rising tides lifts all boats has been a lie. We have rigged our economy to the point where a rising tide lifts the yachts and leaves the rest of us, most of us, in leaky rowboats. Government programs versus private programs. Well, progressives believe that government programs, when run right, can actually run in many cases better than private programs. And I'm just going to give you some more stats, because again, it's very important for us to actually consider data and not just rhetoric. According to a study by experts in 2005, the United States wastes more on private health care bureaucracy than it would cost to provide health care to all its uninsured. As the World Health Organization noted in a separate report, 15 cents of every dollar America spends on private health insurance goes to paperwork. By contrast, Medicare, that government-run evil, apparently, spends 4 cents on administrative costs and is one of the most popular programs in American history. So what I'm trying to say here is that we can demonize each other and say that liberals only want to think about race. Liberals only want to address issues like economic inequality. Or we can actually look at the reality that liberals, progressives, are the ones who actually acknowledge reality as it exists. If you deny that there is not race in this country, if you deny that there is not inequality in this country and that inequality does not matter, you are not dealing with reality in this country. If you claim that the liberal agenda is to preference one race over another, if you claim that the liberal agenda is to prioritize changing inequality over making sure everybody does well in this country, you're not paying attention to the news. You open the newspaper today and you see a government that has been in the throes of conservatism, deregulatory conservatism, as championed, frankly, by both parties. And you will see that we have had the largest expansion of economic inequality in our nation's history, at least since the Gilded Age. At the same time, wages, job security, pensions, and health care benefits are being driven down. In other words, inequality, liberals acknowledge, is directly related to people's ability to do well and have a standard of living that we consider acceptable in this country.